Okay, great. So thank you so much for all being here today. It's great to see such a solid group. So welcome to Aduro's Human Performance Series. This is the first of a multi-part series. My name is Carolyn Thayer-Azoff. I am a Director of Client Experience at Aduro, and I am lucky enough to be your host today. So my colleagues have asked me to run through just a few business items before we get started. There will be more information coming about the continuation of this series. Today, we are diving into just one of many paths and insights that we are excited to share with you. Our goal is to keep the content portion to about 30 minutes, and then we'll have open it up for Q&A. So throughout the webinar, as questions come to mind, please chat them in. And we are committed to responding to those at the end of the webinar or after the fact if needed. We will be recording today's webinar for all of you in case you want to revisit it or share it with other colleagues, or for those who are not able to join live. You will get the recording after the webinar as well as a link to our Human Performance White Paper. As I mentioned, the chat feature is live. I'm loving the messages coming through already. So thank you and keep using that. If you're having any issues, I do have some colleagues in the background helping with questions or troubleshooting. Although I'd love to talk to you live, for the sake of continuity, your mics and videos have been muted. So by means of communicating, please do so via the chat. There will be a few poll questions, so as a way to engage with you. So please respond to those, and we'll be bringing those insights live throughout the webinar. And then just in terms of the framework of today, I'm going to spend a few minutes kicking us off. I'm then going to invite in Elyse Druhm, one of our human performance coaches, to dive into Get Moving, some of the intention behind it, as well as share some insights that we've learned about participants who have gone through the Get Moving path. So without further ado, let's get started. As I mentioned, today we are going to be focusing specifically on the health and fitness element of human performance. Human performance, before we narrow in on health and fitness, encompasses all aspects of people's lives. Specifically, today we're going to focus in on Get Moving, a path that, like I said, Coach Elyse is going to be sharing with us today. I'm excited to have Elyse join me. She's going to share the intention behind the path, how her and her colleagues on our human performance coaching team work to create positive change within people's lives, and then also share some pretty eye-opening results. I know that as a leader in our client experience team, I hear all the time from our strategic account managers and from our customers how really critical these type of insights are to drive best practices. And so I'm right there with you with my kind of curious mind and excited to dig in. So for those who aren't familiar, I'm going to start with just a little bit about who Aduro is. Aduro is a human performance company, and we've created a very intentional experience that allows individuals to focus on what they care about in the way that works best for them to ultimately be their possibility. And we wake up every day on a mission to unlock the potential in people so that they can be great at anything. And as a result, empower your organization to create a flourishing and productive culture. I'll put in a little plug here in light of flourishing. Aduro just announced an exciting partnership with Harvard around flourishing. So I invite you to go to our website and check that out if that piques your interest or if you're curious about that. A key word that we talk about all the time is inclusive. And so we want to be sure to be inclusive of your population, addressing all aspects of someone's life. And so what that means is that it's challenging the high performers, the peak performers, as well as supporting people who might need a little bit extra support when it comes to things like health risks. And this whole person is really key to initiating long-term behavior change. In a little bit, I'll talk to you about our transformative habit change model, which guides our behavior change experience. And because of this whole person approach, we offer not just a depth of content, like I mentioned, meeting both the high performers as well as those who need a little bit extra support, but also a breadth of topics that resonate with really everyone in your population. And we have more than 300 paths, practices, and habits that are served up in a whole variety of different channels. As you can see here, we've identified 5 key interrelated elements of human performance in this holistic approach. Health and fitness, which we are going to be zeroing in on today through Get Moving, is not just focused on basic health opportunities, but also on that peak performance, from everything from exercise to nutrition. Money and prosperity, so this spans from budgeting to legacy planning to trust and estates. Growth and development, so this spans from goal setting, professional development, career development, leadership, and even parenting. Contribution and sustainability, so how am I giving back to my community? How am I being a steward of the environment in which I live, as well as protect our physical environment? And all of these are based on a core foundation of resilience and flourishing. I alluded to this a little bit earlier today, but Aduro's in the business of helping people make change. And to inform this, our intrinsic content and experience is rooted in what we call the Transformative Habit Change model. And this is a proven model that has 5 different stages, as you can see, not all linear. So I'll just take us briefly through this. And this is a model that shows up in every one of our paths, just like Get Moving and experiences. So Discover is really where we create awareness around what somebody might be wanting in their human performance journey, maybe what they're needing and what we learn about through things like their health and well-being, and really what is that core desire towards human performance and being great at what they want to be great at. Engage is where we serve up opportunities to help people identify, how does this align with my values and my goals? This creates alignment and personalization for them to take that action. The ignite moment. So this is the key, aha moment when the person understands why behind that core desire for that behavior change. This generates momentum to really instill that long, sustained change. Practice is the reiteration of that ignite step, of the ways that they're engaging. So somebody puts that new knowledge into action consistently, repeatedly, and this is really critical in order to form those long-lasting positive habits. And then lastly, change. And this is what we are going to be diving into a little bit today in terms of some of the outcomes that we've seen from Get Moving in terms of how people have made real change in their life, how they've replaced old harmful habits with new, more beneficial ones. And this is all, so with the depth and breadth of the content, we are addressing your whole population, but we also have to make sure that the experience is served up in a way that fits into people's daily lives. And so this is why we've really focused in on building a native experience that combines the human connection with a personalized digital engagement and experience. And this experience is informed by data. It connects employees to coaches like Elyse, mentors, and resources along the way. So without further ado, I will be looping back at the end of the webinar, but I know you're all here to learn about Get Moving, how to engage your sedentary population. And so I am going to hand it over to Coach Elyse Druhm.
Hello, everyone. Hello. That middle picture is deceiving. I promise you I'm not as high off the ground as I look. But thank you so much, Carolyn. That was a great kickoff. Just a little bit about me. I am one of our remote employees as well. I am a military spouse, so I tend to bounce where my husband goes. But I am so excited to be here with you guys today to talk a little bit about this. I serve as Aduro's subject matter expert when it comes to physical activity and exercise. So I'm really excited to be here to share these results and this insight and even the trends that we noticed as we go. So let's jump right in. It's probably not gone unnoticed that there is a growing concern about the dangers of a sedentary population. For arguments based on the data set that we're presenting here to you today and our research, we've chosen to define sedentary as getting less than 30 minutes of exercise. And you'll see that as I show the results earlier. But as for this purpose, it's either no activity at all or less than 30 minutes. And so I want you to kind of take a moment and think about how does that translate to your population? Start kind of thinking about where your population may lie in that range. Now, there's a lot of studies and research out there. In fact, some are saying sitting is the new smoking. There are a couple of recent studies from the American Journal of Preventive Medicine that talks about prolonged sitting being associated with risk in 34 chronic diseases, including but not limited to obesity, diabetes, some types of cancer, and cardiovascular disease. So with that in mind, that is why the Get Moving path was designed. It's there to offer support and motivation to get people going. You know, as a coach, I hear it very often from participants, like, how do I get started? What can I do? And our clients, you guys were really clear. You were wanting a program that could teach your sedentary population those basic techniques and movements to get started. So talking a little bit about our program, the first step in designing this was, what's the recommendation? Where's our benchmark? What are these participants working towards? And the CDC recommends 150 minutes of moderate to intense exercise per week. So we aligned with those federal guidelines and aligned with that recommendation. And within this program, there are survey questions that are before, during, and after the program that allows us to get a good understanding for us doing the data of how to measure success. Now, within the program, people are measuring success in their own way, which is really great to see from my perspective, to see it allows a little bit more insight into what's important to the individual as a person and meeting them where they are at. Now, the coach or the facilitator throughout this six session path, we're creating an environment that sets people up for success. And how we do that, and this is kind of tying back into what Carolyn mentioned about our transformative habit change model, we do that by creating small achievable goals that are within an individual's motivation and ability. We provide them the information to be able to create their own program, create their own routine, and what that looks like for them. Also looping in a realistic starting point. We talk about the importance of celebrating wins. It builds on the solid foundation of success that really launches people into sustainable habit change. We don't shy around or tiptoe around barriers and excuses. That is something we face head on, and it is an important piece because it can get people stuck, and we want to get people moving. Also, I really feel it's important to mention that in this program, we do create a foundation of safe practices. And to do this, there is information included on proper form, safe fitness practices like warming up, cooling down, and when to consult your healthcare provider. So we really try to take this full approach to be able to make sure that the person is feeling successful, feeling set up for success, and of course, safe. So here, probably one of my favorite things to talk about with Get Moving, and I'll let you look at some of these stills from the videos included. One of my favorite things to talk about is creating new thinking around physical activity. As I'm sure many of you are aware, society, social media, newspaper, etc., like everyone is placing a lot of should around activity. What should we be doing? How should we be acting? Where should we be going? Et cetera, et cetera. And one of the biggest barriers that I see over and over as a coach and a facilitator of this program is that people are trying to force themselves to do something that they don't like. And I'm sure even hearing that now, you're probably like, Why? Why would someone do that? But it's true, and it can get people stuck. And so really, as coaches, through this presentation and through this content, we're empowering individuals to do the things that we love, because it's so often overlooked that we have that power to do things that we like to do. And when you combine that with that intrinsic value, that ignite moment, that realization of why it's essential for you to change, it's only gonna enhance your successfulness going forward for that sustainable change. And plus, quite honestly, who isn't excited to do something that they're wanting to do? I'm sure all of you can think of something that you love and enjoy, and you're probably more apt to do it because you love it. So we really focus in on that. We really focus in on what works for each person. For some people, that is the treadmill or a fitness class like yoga or CrossFit. For others, it's playing with their kids, dancing in the house, doing yard work. And it's important to remember that at its core, physical activity is anything that you do to break a sweat. Anything. And so here, looking at the stills, while the basis of this program is to encourage people to get out and get moving in a way that works best for them, as you can see here, we're highlighting body weight exercises. And we do that for a couple of reasons. First, sometimes people just need a nudge. They're not sure where to start. Second, body weight exercises are amazing. They are free. You can do them anytime, anywhere, and at no cost. And those three things right there tend to be barriers for people. Time is a common barrier. I hear location or not having a gym nearby is something that I hear a lot. And of course, the cost of said classes or said gym. So by providing this as a getting started piece, it really shows people what's possible when they can do something anywhere and at any time. It's also a really good introduction to movement, using your body weight as resistance, which is what body weight exercise is. So you can see here on the far left that he's doing a squat. Using that body weight as resistance is amazing for your joints and adding that strength component to a workout. Now, over the course of the program, we do have content. We have 3-minute videos each session that is included. So it's a 3-minute workout video with a variety of movements, as you can see stilled here. So by the end of the program, at the end of the 6 weeks, they have 18 minutes of videos that people can mix and match or do one right after the other. So they're really given something that they can take forward along with them. Now, as we mentioned previously, both Carolyn and myself, we do highlight taking those small achievable steps for long-lasting change. And what I mean by that is, you want to do something that's within your motivation and ability. That's what sets you up for success. So if someone was highly motivated, for example, to start running and they get involved and get moving, what they're going to realize is that if they want to run a marathon, that's really great, but it's outside of their ability to go and run a few miles. So we meet them where they're at and we teach them tools like, hey, going and buying the right pair of shoes, that's a great first step. And then maybe you start walking, and then maybe you start running a little bit, and you just build and build with these steps that are within your reach. So I want to help give some examples here. I actually have my own example, and I've had my own ignite moment within movement and habit change for myself, which I'm happy to share as well. But I want to introduce you to John and Rebecca. So John here, he works in IT. He is in his mid-30s, and he self-reported as having a sedentary lifestyle. Now, I'm going to help walk you through these steps of the transformative habit change. So his discovery, him and his wife, they're recently married. They found out they're expecting, and he went to his biometric screening, and he got a little worried after because some of the numbers were putting him in low risk areas. And so he thought, okay, well, what can I do? Well, he's very tech savvy, and he has a long commute to work. So his best bet was to log on to the Aduro app to look and see what's available. He saw Get Moving, he enrolled in it and started engaging in that program while he used that public transportation to get to work. Now, as we're prompting him as we go to find that reason, to find that intrinsic value, he realized, oh man, this baby is going to be here. And I want to be able, I'm looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And I am so excited for what's to come. And I need to be my best self to be able to support my wife, to support my child, and to be able to be there for all of those moments. So that was his ignite. That was his intrinsic value and his why. So once he had that aha moment, he started understanding what those small successes and small habits could look like. He brought back to life, or reignited, if you will, his love for cycling. He loves bicycle rides, and started riding slowly but surely. And that turned into long-lasting habit change. Getting back into cycling, he joined a cycling club in his area, and now he's doing it more often. And so that was his journey through. And we'll see here as we dive into the data in a few moments, how that transpired. I also want to introduce you to Rebecca. She's on the different end of the spectrum. Rebecca is 62 years old. She's an admin assistant. And her discover moment came from visiting her family recently over the holidays. She realized that she was doing things with her family that was getting her a little bit out of breath. She's not really active. She also self-reported as sedentary. Even walking around with her grandkids at the zoo, she found taxing. And so what she did, she's not a techie like John. She felt more comfortable accessing and looking at what she could engage in from her desktop computer. So she found Get Moving and was super excited to be involved. Now, again, same prompt, same program as John. As she started reflecting on what is most important to her, she realized how much she could potentially miss out on if she wasn't able to keep up with her kids and her grandkids. She also has retirement real close to being the next chapter of her life. So she is like, wow, I'm going to have all of this time and I'm going to want to dedicate it to my family, but I don't want to feel held back. So what she did was starting engaging in these practices and doing small steps to start Get Moving. And as she engaged in the path, she also engaged in one-on-one coaching. She wanted to make sure she wasn't feeling stuck. That's where we explored the real reason there, getting down to that retirement and things like that. And that really helped. That aha moment that Carolyn talked about, that ignite, that really was a catalyst for change for her. And so she is now more excited than ever to be able to go back to the zoo, to play with her kids and her grandkids, and just have the time of her life as she enters that next chapter. All right, so the nuts and bolts of this. Let's dive into some cool stuff. So here you can see, this is how the demographics break down. You can see it by age, how we're kind of all over the spectrum from John all the way to Rebecca. You can also see the distribution here by gender, how the female population just stole the show here. But let's look at the sweet spot. So that sweet spot lies in 30 to 49. So I want you guys to think about your population. How many lives fall into that? And as we're going through this data here, we're going to push out some more poll questions just to kind of elicit some feedback from you. Again, feel free to chat in any thoughts. Now, this data here is from over 15,000 participants that completed the program. So over 15,000, you could see the spread of people, the range of people all over, as well as male to female. Think about any insight you have into seeing that it's more female. How would that affect your marketed messaging in this program? Maybe there's people that are within your wellness champion network or your executives. Are there people that fall into that persona of female between the ages of 30 and 50? And maybe this would be a great presentation to share with them. Okay, so this is where we started. As we mentioned earlier, a little bit about the intent of where we were going with this was to market that sedentary population, those people that were not at that CDC benchmark. So what you can see here is that there's 41.3% of those 15,000 that were at, some even exceeding the recommended amounts, but there was nearly 60%, 58.7 people that were below. And you'll see how we broke down where they were to help kind of really see the trends in the data. But within that 58.7, 11.7% self-reported as sedentary. Now remember, you like the sedentary is the 0 to 30 minutes, right? So some people weren't exercising at all. Some people might have been 20 minutes. And remember, that's per week. Now, when we break it out, 11.7 is around 1,650 people. So that was a big chunk there. All right. The goods, right? Where did people start and where did people finish? So we've broken down the data here to show on the far left, you'll see sedentary. So the average in weekly minutes in that sedentary population in that 1,650 people was 9 minutes, just around 9 minutes a week. 9 minutes a week. And you could see how it goes from there. We've broken out and categorized all participants into the 3 segments, whether they were meeting the recommendations, whether they were sedentary, and then you can see in the middle here, light exercise 1, 2, 3, and 4. We broke it out in 30-minute increments just to dial in a little bit more and to be able to show you trends. So what does this mean? So the 9 minutes a week, you can see that is not that much, and sedentary, far from the recommendation. This is where people are starting. Another example of looking at these numbers is that you can see when we look at the results here, boom, crazy, right? These results, so first the average tends to lean, one of the trends I want to point out is these averages here. So say for light exercise 1, light exercise 2, the minimum was 30 and 60, and you can see the average weekly hangs kind of close to that minimum threshold. So that was a trend that we noticed, but look at how, look at the difference it made from the start to the end of the program. So this red bar represents where people ended at the end of our program. Look at that. From 9 minutes a week for the sedentary population to an hour and a half. Whoa. It is crazy. And I wish I had the time to go through all of the amazing things, to hear firsthand as a presenter, as a coach, what this program means to people, how it has changed their lives is just amazing to be able to hear. I mean, the Johns and Rebeccas are not short of testimonials in sharing what is so awesome about this. So you can see that where the most exponential gains are. You can see that from the sedentary, of course, and the light exercise 1 through 3 groups. You can see how the trends went. Again, I love that I can see you guys are chatting in questions. We just hang on to that. We will get to all of your questions. I want to make sure I give you guys all of the cool stuff. So you can see here in all, we have had a substantial impact on people who have wanted to make change in their life, regardless of what the reason was or what prompted them. And we have had immense success in being able to make that change. Okay, now we know that every program or every path is going to have a drop-off, but check this out. 65% of those who started Get Moving finished. I mean, those 65%, they went through all 6 weeks. They championed through. They did amazing things. The biggest drop-off we see is in week 1. It's about 13%. That would be maybe around a standard drop-off. It's because what kept it going as we went is our coaching. Another possible explanation is, maybe Susan signed up and thought it would be something for her. She's already exercising, and as you can see, it's a little bit more towards people who are getting going and getting started. The drop-off shrinks, as you can see, as we go through week 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, etc. We attribute this success, and this is going to sound real tooty coming from a coach, but we really do attribute the success to pairing this with one-on-one coaching, because it helps people. This program is here to give them the information that they need, to give them that nudge, to give them ideas, but pairing that with one-on-one coaching really is powerful to help people get unstuck, to get dialed in to what they really want and to get to that ignite moment. Because as we spoke about, that ignite moment is how a very powerful catalyst for the change going forward. Now this is amazing. Like, this gets me so excited. So I mentioned those surveys that we talked about before, during, and after as they go. And I wanted to take a moment to highlight what the participants said specifically in these two areas. So compared to week 1 and week 6, look at the jumps. 61.3 to 79.6, that was an 18.4% jump, were people who said they are committed to their exercise. 68.7 to 82.1, a 13.4 jump percent. That's the people that said they found opportunities. So the commitment piece here is a testament to how our program is designed. We are making these small, achievable steps. We are in line with that transformative habit change model that's allowing people to do something to succeed and continue building. We're also, like I mentioned, encouraging people to do what they love. So, if John, for example, who loves bike riding, right? If he was under the impression that he had to go to the gym and had to be on the treadmill, he might not be as committed. But John falls in that percent that says they're committed to their exercise because he realized, man, I love biking. Why am I not doing that? That is activity. He falls into that. Another barrier that we see is time and opportunity. So to be able to see this jump not only ties into the people who are committed to living healthier lives, but they're finding the time. Those are the people that were like, I'm too busy. And boom, 13.4% increase. We're like, I'm going to make it happen. And that we can tie it back to not just our coaching, but also that ignite moment, like we said. That why and that intrinsic value, their why becomes bigger than their why not, which is huge in getting someone to change habits and to get moving. So I'm sure even as you guys are thinking now, you're here, maybe thinking about what your own ignite moment can be in relation to this, or maybe you've already had one. But I encourage you to reflect a little bit and see and think about how this could really radically change your sedentary population. I see some more questions coming in. I love it. I'm going to shoot it back to Carolyn now. Carolyn?
Thank you, Elyse. That was great. I am, as we wrap up the content portion, then we will open it up for Q&A. Elyse, thanks for taking some of those on the fly. So Elyse, thank you again very much for that. And as I'm sure there's a lot of things that are going through everybody's mind now. What can we take? How can we take what we've just learned about the population and the results of Get Moving today? And how can you be empowered with these insights to create or expand a powerful program that really ignites and motivates and creates momentum for your sedentary population? And so whether you're in that, I think it was about 40% bucket that are not planning on implementing a well-being program in your workplace, or in that 60% who are planning or maybe already have one in place, I'm going to leave you just with 3 quick best practice takeaways of opportunity. And if you've joined any of our previous webinars or popped onto our website for some of our resources, you're going to see some common themes around executive support, champion or ambassador networks, and marketing strategies. So when it comes to organizational support, having data like this data from Get Moving really helps you make a case for a population that both in terms of the needs and the desires of the executive leadership for how to help your population get moving. We all know that when we're reporting up to our executives, data speaks. And so this helps you get that executive buy-in from the leadership team to help boost their ability to, justify that value and investment and have that inside-out, top-down support, both from an operational standpoint as well as from a cultural standpoint. If you have an ambassador network or a champion network, really knowing some of the information around the demographics of who is choosing those out of those 15,000 people to engage in a program like Get Moving can help kind of open up those conversations with your champions. And also how can they add more color to how programs like Get Moving can be brought to life within your culture. So we see some clients that take the Aduro, Get Moving webinar, have their champions who are really, excited about it, and expand it beyond the path, bring it into, having walking groups during lunch, or having kind of more community-based environmental ways to support and bring the concepts of Get Moving to life. If you are an Aduro customer, your Aduro account manager can definitely share some best practices for initiating and engaging your champion network in this way. We've actually also had coaches like Elyse join some of our clients' champion meetings in a bit of a train-the-trainer aspect as well, which has gone over really well. And then lastly, like any initiative, communications and marketing strategy is key to gain that momentum and stickiness. And so knowing the demographic that makes up the Get Moving population, and of course this is going to be specific for your population, but it can really help you be strategic about how you market programs such as Get Moving. For example, things like using images and language that speaks to women between 30 and 50 years old might be something to consider. We're not targeting marathon runners. So there's an opportunity to message that it's not intimidating. You're not signing up for an Ironman. It's really, like Elyse said, about how it fits into your life and what you enjoy. Also, are there established initiatives all internally that Get Moving can get plugged into? So do you have a corporate, philanthropy 5K? Or are there, employee resource groups that are, have some of these initiatives or kind of movement-oriented initiatives in play? How can Get Moving support that, and vice versa? So now we do see some questions and answers here. I know Elyse already tackled some. Elyse, definitely feel free to pop in if you're seeing any. I love that. Lisa, can I show this slide to my sedentary husband? We encourage you to, we will be sharing out the recording. We love, like I said, we are in the business of helping people create change. And so if this is going to be an igniting moment for anybody, we'd love for you to share that.
I see a couple other stuff coming through. Dawn asked, why do you think the healthy exercise 2 minutes decreased? That is, that's not something that and I'll dive in. This will kind of tie into Susan's question about collecting this data. We are trying to see, and based on how it's marketed, we're trying to see how people are increasing. So I being fully transparent, I can only speculate, but we do talk around the recommendations and of being 150 minutes. So it could be speculated that those people hit the 150 or find their mark or their routine and then kind of just level off there. Again, what works for them. But going into how we're collecting, and please, Dawn, let me know if you have a follow-up question. But going into Susan's question, how and when we're collecting this data. So going back to those 2 survey points of what participants saying, we have each session, we send out a survey and we ask these questions, the same questions, to see that marked improvement. Aside from creating the opportunity, so people like John and Rebecca, we are seeing that, they started with, when we asked them how they reported in the beginning, in week 1, they were sedentary. Obviously in week 6, that changed a little bit for them. We also ask people how they're measuring their success. For us, and for the purpose of this, these results and this data is amazing and impactful, but not every participant is moved by that. Somebody wants to just measure their success and how they feel, or how their clothes are fitting, or if it's easier to pick something up as they start to get moving. So these questions are based for us to gather some data. They're asked each week to collect, but also give us some additional insight and trends into the participant population, into that 15,000 that were part of it. So this program, like we said, is for the sedentary population. And so we have some questions here around, do we have other programs for the other more fit population? And that's a really great question. The creative person in me, the SME on this topic, just lights up because I cannot wait. We are always exploring and going through how we can evolve. And so, yes, that is in the works and that is in the plan. I would love to hear from you guys to chat in as we wrap up. We're getting close to time. If you guys have any insight or knowing your population, what other things might be amazing for them in your more active population, what you can do, or what you'd love to see, but to bottom line it for you, there are more programs looking forward as we evolve our content for the more fit population groups.
Okay, so thank you for all of you who have joined us today. This has been a very interesting and in the word that we use, igniting conversation. Again, we are really here in the business of creating change in people's lives and in your organization. And so if you're interested in learning more, please visit our website, adurolife.com. You can also reach out to me personally if you prefer that way, carolyn.thayer@adurolife.com. And I think it might be chatted in as well. So thank you again for joining us today. We hope that you join us for future webinars within this series. Have a great day.